black. I hit the sack. It's been too long. I'm glad to be back. Yes, I've let loose from a noose that's keep me hanging around. I've been looking to the sky because it's getting me high. Forget the hearse because I never die. I got 9 lives, cat's eyes, abusing every one of them and running wild because I'm back. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair where we've got the sun on our skin, the wind at our back, and the new American Renaissance right in front of our face. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing pretty dang good. I'm not sure if I can wipe a smile off my face right now. Yeah. It's pretty difficult.
Yep, I agree.
So
I agree. I mean, what have we been talking about for how long now? And here it is.
I don't know. I mean, it was literally the longest election in the history of the world. I mean, it just true. Really was. And when you think about what this nation's gone through since June, yes, especially since that June debate.
Yeah.
You know, the elder abuse that Biden was put through, then the coup.
Right.
You know, then Trump getting shot, and then him, a second time, and then, I mean,
yeah.
It's just an amazing, unprecedented, an election like none other. I mean, I don't even think in my lifetime, I'm trying to think of an election in American history that has maybe 1968 is the only one I can come up with. You had the great comeback of Richard Nixon. You had Johnson bow out much earlier. I mean, he bowed out in March or April.
Right.
And then Humphrey didn't get in until Robert Kennedy was shot, Robert Kennedy Sr.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be the most upheaval election I can think of other than this year.
Probably is.
So,
you had a lot of the same conditions going on in society.
Yeah.
You had the Kent State stuff. You had, all of that.
Yeah, pretty antsy public and a pretty unpopular administration. Yeah. I think it is probably the only year I can think of that has that kind of parallel to it.
It's funny. As unpopular as the Johnson administration was, as big of a racist as he was, how that changed the landscape of American politics up till, I'd say, now. Because you have an entire population of people that forgot that the Democrats vetoed the Republican civil rights bill in the late 50s, and then Johnson
they filibustered it.
Yep, they filibustered.
They did it again in the 60s. The one that Lyndon Johnson signed was actually a little bit of a watered down one.
It was very watered down because it really put. We've talked about it. Broke up families. It put people on the dole.
Well, and
that
keep
they
in
were
mind,
reliant on government.
Keep in mind, it took a constitutional amendment to get rid of the poll tax.
Right.
They couldn't pass a poll tax. They had to go a different way.
Yeah.
To get to break the Southern Democrats, and then 1968 was big with that. Remember, George Wallace ran as a third party candidate and took a couple Southern states. Everybody talks about Richard Nixon's Southern strategy, but Wallace was the one that was the segregationist, not Nixon.
Right.
It's been misrepresented in history. And, of course, Wallace would change his mind later and renounce segregation later in life. But
he should have had a conversation with Joe Biden. They were contemporaries.
Well, I think Biden was still in the Senate. What was it, in the 70s? He was in the Senate, right? So maybe he and Wallace probably knew each other pretty good.
Probably did.
Wallace got shot. You remember he spent the last 20 years of his life in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But an incredible election, the greatest political comeback in the history of the country. It's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, even more so than the Grover-Cleveland election.
Yes, because you had the lawfare, you had the the splits,
assassination attempts.
Yeah, I mean, just incredible what it went through. I mean, Grover Cleveland and Richard Nixon are the only two comparable people to what Donald Trump has done. And just think, for the second time, you have discontinuous. So 47 presidents, but 45 people have been president, which is also the interesting little anomaly. So, I mean, hats off to President Trump. I mean, we'll get into it, but I'm just amazed at the job he did and the team he put together.
Yes.
And speaking of that, Jay, I mean, but by the way, I want to say one thing too. Has anybody looked at how well he's done in the blue states? I mean, we talked about. I thought if he won the popular vote, which he's going to, we'll see what it ends up at.
Right, and that was huge because there's like no way for the Democrats to cry that we have to get rid of the Electoral College. It should be the national popular vote.
I hate saying this, but remember an episode or two we were talking about scenarios after the election. Mm-hmm. One of the things we didn't talk about was faithless electors, which I was really worried about. Had Trump had like a 275 to 265 kind of win.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh. And I thought that if he won the popular vote, I thought he'd have to flip another state or two. But you know why he didn't have to?
Because he dominated everywhere.
Because he's losing Illinois by 7.
I know.
And New York by 11.
Double digits.
Ohio and Florida are closer to Illinois and New York are closer to being red states than Ohio and Florida are to becoming blue states. Yeah. And what happened to Texas flipping? I'll tell you what. He might win.
13 points.
He might end up winning by almost 2 million votes.
Yeah.
2 million.
And that certainly helped Ted Cruz in his election.
Yeah.
Which Mitch McConnell didn't give him a buck.
Yeah.
Not a red cent.
I'll tell you, there's got to be some recriminations with Schumer and the Democrats, how much money they threw at Cullen. Allred, actually, to credit him, I mean, he very much outperformed Kamala Harris. Yeah. However, you think Bob Casey or, Sherrod Brown could have used that money?
Yeah.
I mean, the resource, I know they hate Ted Cruz, but the resources that were, they used a lot against Rick Scott, too, and he won by a huge margin. They put the abortion thing on the ballot, which failed.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried to do anything they could against those two guys, and it was a blowout on both ends. But yeah, they were talking. I remember I was channel surfing just for the hell. I don't know why I turned it to CNN for a little while during the day.
Glutton for punishment.
They were marveling at all the lines outside of you in Chicago and in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out, I wonder who the lines were for when Trump doubled the amount of vote that he got. It wasn't for Harris. Yes. And I got to say something too, Jay. There's something floating around on Twitter. I have been loath to question the 2020 results.
Yes.
A lot. I've been loath to. I hate the term election denier because I think that's not fair to people who have legit issues with mail-in ballots and people voting too early and drop boxes.
Personally, you'll never convince me it was a fair election because you had secretaries of state making election law instead of legislatures, and that is not the way we do things in America. I'm sorry. I have a problem with it. And so I have a problem with that whole election because of those methods.
And isn't it interesting that if you look at the popular votes, going back to Barack Obama, they're all kind of like Kamala Harris right now. Now, I know California counts 5 ballots a day.
Yeah.
We're still waiting on the House. I think the Republicans will have it by a small margin, but we're still waiting. Arizona, you're a disgrace to this country. You're a garbage
Fix
state.
your system.
Call up Ron DeSantis, okay? Call up Greg Abbott or Brian
But
Kemp.
they don't want that because they can't manipulate that system.
In Maricopa County, you're an embarrassment to this country. You're just and this is something I'm going to make a point that I want to ask you about right after this, Jay. But but here's the thing. Harris right now has about as many votes as Mrs. Clinton had.
Yeah.
Now, she'll end up with more when California is all done. Might end up around 70 million. Mrs. Clinton got like 66. Biden got 81. Now, are you going to tell me that 1 out of 7 people who voted for Mrs. Clinton and Kamala didn't vote for Biden?
Right.
You tell me where that makes sense.
Yeah. Black males, Latinos.
139% turnout.
Yeah, it's not.
Look at Trump's percentage of. I'll tell you what. I bet he won them in a lot of states when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And I think 45% is the estimate that he got nationwide, which blows away any Republican ever. But I'll tell you what, you will never. First off, I to say it was stolen. I don't know. All I know is I don't trust that election. It wasn't right.
No.
It was the worst election in our history. The Republicans, the Trump team has legitimate case. I know Trump is bombastic and says, but we have got one thing that has to happen in this country is election integrity. And I'm the biggest states' rights guy there is, Jay. I hate 85% of what the federal government does.
Yes.
But this decentralized election system that we have, which I think raises constitutional questions under, I mean, we're supposed to have an equal say, and to have one state have same-day registration, the next state doesn't. One state has a provisional ballot, the next state doesn't. One state has all this early voting, one state doesn't. One state counts the ballots, then goes home at night, and I don't know what they do. I think there's a chain of custody issue. New Hampshire and South Carolina still use paper ballots.
Yeah.
That's why South Carolina, Trump won by like 23, and they couldn't call it. But that's why they choose to do it the way they did it in 1881. I mean, is there an issue here? Arizona, the Twins are packing for spring training, and they're still counting votes. Is there a case to be made under like equal protection that this isn't fair?
Yeah, I suppose you could make that case.
And look, nobody believes in the 9th and 10th Amendments more than you and me.
Right.
But a presidential election is
Yeah,
to have
I understand.
To have no standards.
I understand that it's hard to bring in federal oversight for a gubernatorial election or a township election in May of,
true.
And so I understand having a Secretary of State that runs the elections and then, or that makes that oversees the elections and then administered by a county, because you have to, I think, at least bring it down to that level.
You have to have some
But here's the problems. You have places like California that are starting to allow illegal aliens to vote but in local elections. Will you tell me that they're not going to try and vote in the federal one, and how you're going to keep that straight? When you give out driver's licenses to illegal aliens, like in Minnesota, how all they do is ask for, a piece of mail or a referral from somebody.
And you don't even need a license.
Yeah.
You don't have to have one.
So
But isn't that foreign interference in our election?
Yeah, it sure is.
What's the difference between that and Russia coming in and hacking, Iran coming in and hacking the voting machine?
Yeah.
I mean, I just wonder if we're going to have to get to a point where it's like, okay, we have to have some uniform standard throughout the country here. It's just because it's very frustrating. It's not fair to the rest of the country. Imagine if we were sitting here waiting on it. Let's just play this out.
Yeah.
Let's pretend Harris would have won one or two of the Great Lakes states, and we're sitting here waiting on Nevada and Arizona to determine the winner.
Right.
Is that fair to anybody?
No.
The rest of the country?
Nope.
And I think we also have, this ranked choice voting. This Maine and Nebraska splitting the Constitution says winner take all.
Yeah. See, I agree with that. I think that is illegal how they do that.
Yeah. How did they get away with that?
I don't know.
But I'll tell you what, though. I think now that it's being split the last couple times, you may see something happen with that.
Yeah, I know Nebraska talked about it.
I think they couldn't make it happen before the election, but they have the votes there to change that.
Absolutely.
What the heck? I know there's 52 Democrats in Omaha, but statewide they could change that like that. so I think to me that's a violation of the winner take all portion of, and I also come back to faithless electors, that some states allow them, some states don't. Well, how is that fair to the rest of the country?
Right.
And it's not a red versus blue thing. Texas allows it.
Yeah.
I mean, two of them happened in the 2016 race.
Right.
So, I mean, how's that fair to the rest of the country that faithless electors, one person can sit there and who's pledged to do something, decides not to, and can alter an election outcome.
Yeah.
I mean,
and for a federal election, there's no reason they can't make a federal law requiring photo ID.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried to do that. They tried to, with the Vote Act, to get that through.
The Help America Vote Act back in the 2000s, they tried to do that too.
Yeah.
When they got the voting machines to get rid of the hanging chads and all that.
Well, I think it's something they might revisit if the Republicans win the House.
I think they're going to have to. I mean, I think you I don't understand the opposition to it is basically an admission that you're cheating.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty much an admission of that. Hey, we don't want you to have an ID because we're cheating to try to. I mean, what else can the answer be? I mean, the Democrats required a photo ID to get into the Democratic National Convention.
Yep.
Which is just why? Isn't that racist? I mean,
no.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
Well, for another show.
All right, but before we move on, and as long as we're dealing with kind of a light conspiracy theory, let's deal with another conspiracy theory, as we're wont to do on this show.
All right, so this UFO.
No, there's an election-related one. There are pictures of Jill Biden going to vote in a red dress. Do you think she voted for Trump? Do you think the Bidens voted for Trump? Do you think they were so mad at Kamala Harris and Obama that they actually went and cast their vote for Trump?
No, but it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't vote for either Trump or Harris.
Yeah.
They might have wrote in Joe.
Not that it's going to matter in Delaware anyways.
Hey, Trump got 45% of the vote in Delaware.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I can't believe that Vermont has a Republican governor now.
And not only that. Those little states up there, they can be flipped because you're not talking about that many votes.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and say Trump should have been campaigning in Rhode Island. I'm not saying that because you can't be in 25 states. Okay, you just can't be. But Rhode Island, Delaware, New Hampshire, which would have flipped had they put a little more resources into it. I know they didn't need it, but Kelly Ayotte won the governorship there, and I think it's certainly possible. And I think a couple of those other states can flip too. I mean, and now that Florida, Ohio, Texas, they're all out of reach.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if the Democrats put the same effort into Texas next time around.
Not a chance. No chance whatsoever. I mean, zero. I mean, I know that there's rumors that Greg Abbott's not running again, and that might be an open seat, so you may see a change there.
Yeah, but I think you're going to have like Dan Patrick running, though, and he's pretty
That's the
popular.
Rumor I've heard is that he's the heir apparent.
Yeah.
But, anyway, and I don't know who's going to run in Florida. Ron DeSantis can't run again because of there's a 2-term limit there.
Yeah,
so
that one they've got to figure out.
They're going to have to, I mean, I don't know.
Maybe Pam Bondi would make a good governor.
I don't know. I'd like Anna Luna. I'd like to see her take a stab at it. She won her race by about 5 times as much as was originally thought. I mean, the Democrats, she's one of those people they hate. A Republican minority woman is a different level of hatred among Democrats. So, but she's a little young. I mean, 35-ish.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Pam Bondi would be gross. She'd be awesome.
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't know. We'll see there. But anyhow, could they have? I don't know. They could have wrote in something. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, old Joe, I'm not sure he knows he's alive. So,
yeah, I mean, maybe a guy like Byron Donalds would want to go back and be governor too.
He's such a rising star in the House.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I know I wanted him to stay.
See, here's the thing. We're going to talk about Trump's possible cabinet picks in a minute.
Yeah.
And I'm so reluctant to take anybody, any governor or anybody from the House and Senate because it's like, nah, you know what? We need them there. I like that person. And there's 12 senators I like, and I don't want to. We're already losing Vance, so I don't want to take anybody else. But I'd really like to have. No, I don't want to take that governor. They're doing a great job. Leave them there.
Yep.
You know, so it's a tough thing to sort of fill that out. Obviously, Susie Wiles been named chief of staff. I think that was kind of something we're not surprised at. But filling out Trump's cabinet going to be interesting, Jay, because there's a lot of people around Trump that kind of a. I don't think any candidate I've seen has a more diverse walk of life people around him.
Right. I mean, we already know Elon Musk will be coming in a non-governmental role as the government efficiency guy.
Yeah, and that's a good role for him. You don't want him to go in front of Congress and go through his money and blah, blah, blah. I think he's a great person for that. I think it's picture perfect for him to do. Yeah. Is to go through and, I mean, you got a guy who's run billion-dollar companies. He'll find every inefficiency I think you could find. There's going to be some government bureaucrats that don't like him. I hope his taxes have been filled out right. Because talk about going after somebody.
Well,
but let me ask
there may not be an IRS if he goes to all tariffs.
That's true. I mean, I would take that. I'd take an SS tax over an income tax. So I'm just going to throw out some people. Jay, I mean, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this.
Yeah.
Some people that have been rumored. I mean, obviously Vivek has been rumored.
Yeah.
He's been rumored about replacing J.D. Vance, too, in Ohio.
That's true.
I don't know what that process is. Vance has 4 more years to go. I don't know. I'm sure that Trump has already thought of somebody for that. There's no way he would have picked Vance without talking to Governor DeWine and figuring out, okay, is there an appointment here? Is there a special election? I'm sure they have somebody in mind already. I personally would like Vivek in the cabinet. I think he would be better to run something than be a senator where he'll just get corrupted by.
Yeah. He's a business guy. He'd be great at running something.
I think obviously Tulsi Gabbard's going to have a role doing something. DOD, Homeland Security is kind of what's been floating around her. Yeah. I think DOD is a good place for her to go. I know there's going to be Republicans that don't want her to have such a high position, but I think Trump has to make the case, look, I don't care about their opinion on abortion. I want them to run this department and run it well.
Yes.
And I think that's what he's got to sell. And the Republicans are up to 53 senators now and maybe more.
Yes.
He should be able to get anybody he wants. I know that RFK has been talked about. I don't know that he wants to go through a Senate hearing either.
Right.
HHS is probably a place he could end up if Trump wants a fight. But to me, an unofficial role may be the better place to put him into, unless he wants it. I mean, I don't know what kind of, I don't want to say deal they've cut because I don't think Trump made a solid promise to him. But I think it's pretty obvious the way he's been around Trump lately that whether it's official or unofficial, he's going to have a significant role. And look, there's certain issues where he'll be good. There's some other people, Jay, I'm going to throw some other names at you that I would like to see. You mentioned Treasury Secretary.
Yeah.
I got 2 guys at the top of my list. One we just saw on TV.
Yeah.
Steve Forbes.
Yeah.
I mean, not Steve Forbes.
Yeah.
The guy from the Club for Growth. What the hell's his name? We just saw him.
Yeah.
Steve Moore.
Moore, yes.
The other guy I'd like to see is Larry Kudlow. I think he'd be a great Secretary of the Treasury.
Yeah, he'd be good.
There's some other people. I think Ellie Stefanik is somebody he's got to consider. I know
Do
people.
you take her out
See,
though
that's-
in a
see,
New
that-
York seat?
Right. See, there's the old thing like with Anna Luna and with Byron Daniels. I mean, but I like her. She's such a. There's so many jobs I can think of that I could put her at that I think she'd be wonderful. But yeah, I think she's somebody who's going to get a lot of consideration. But whether you ultimately want to take her out or not, here's a guy.
I think because you've lost some Republican seats in New York, maybe you don't want to take that chance.
Maybe.
I don't know.
How about Kevin McCarthy? Does he get a spot anywhere?
That's a good question. He might.
I mean, I don't know what the right job is for him,
Yeah.
but I think maybe being a liaison,
Yeah.
like to the House or to
Right.
certain committees or something. He knows everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a guy you got to use. Here's another guy I'd like to see. Lee Zeldin.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him get a position somewhere.
Huh.
I mean, he's not in an office
No,
right
he's
now.
not
and,
doing nothing.
if there's one governor that I think has a role, even though I would like to see him stay and finish his term,
Yeah.
but I think Doug Burgum is going to be either Interior or Energy
Yeah.
in North Dakota. I think he's going to have a spot there.
Yeah. And I wonder about that because, like, with Burgum and then with DeSantis, I think, like, in a couple of years, if they could find a spot for him or a way for him to come over FEMA in 2 years, he'd be perfect there.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That would be good.
Yeah.
The one office that there's two offices though
Yeah.
where Trump's really going to have to do some thinking, and one of that is Attorney General,
Yes.
and the other is Secretary of State. And I don't see Trump likes to handle foreign policy himself.
Yeah.
So maybe the State Department is not as important, whereas, I think Anthony Blinken basically did what he wanted to.
Right.
And I think Obama gave Hillary and John Kerry way too much leeway too. So I don't know if that's as important as it would be, although I think cleaning out the State Department is...
You got to really... You
big
need somebody
job.
that wants to go in there and clean it up because what we've been doing in other countries is horrendous.
Yeah, I think we need less of a diplomat and more of a go-getter. And as Attorney General, boy, we really need somebody good for that.
Alina Hava. How about that?
How about Pam Bondi for that?
Sure.
I mean, what?
Sure. But then she can't take over in Florida. When
Leo Terrell. How about Leo?
He'd be good. He'd be good.
I think he'd be just
Yeah.
awesome.
I don't think
Rudy
he'd do
Giuliani. You need a 45-year-old Rudy Giuliani. That's
Right.
what you really need.
it. Or Alan Dershowitz. Having a young Alan Dershowitz, that respects the Constitution, doesn't care what
If it's
party you're
Republican,
with.
yeah.
You do what the Constitution says. That's
Yeah,
that's
how
the kind
about-
of guy they need.
I thought of another guy. How about Jonathan Turley?
Yeah. Yeah, he may do a good
Greg
job.
Jarrett? Bring somebody over from Fox. Bring somebody like that. I think Jonathan Turley's a lot like Alan Dershowitz. I mean, another guy who has had a liberal past, but the parties left him 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think you do need I think you need a law enforcement, not an ideologue there. We can't have a repeat of the Merrick Garland. Not that Trump would do that.
Right.
But I think that's going to be a really important thing. And I don't know who's on his short list. I have no idea.
Right.
I'm just throwing out names.
Yeah.
But let me tell you a couple of people I don't want to see. Marco Rubio tops that list.
Yeah.
I don't dislike Rubio, but State Department's not the right, just like Vice President, that's the wrong role for him.
Yeah.
I think anybody who, I hate putting it this way. I don't want to say anybody who outshines Trump. That's the wrong way to put it.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of Republicans who still don't really respect Trump as the boss.
Yes.
And Donald Trump's a guy who he says thumbs up or thumbs down on everything.
Yep.
I know who's in charge when he's there.
He is.
And so
Yep.
you can't, and I'm not saying surround him with yes men. What I'm saying is you've got to, if you don't share what he's trying to do,
Yeah.
in 6 months he's going to can you. So there's no point in trying to satisfy this wing of the party, or
No,
he can't do that again. I think he tried to do that with the John Boltons and the
Right.
Bill Barrs and the Mike Pompeos, and he can't do that again.
no, he has a high level of deference. I mean, he will take the people that he's brought around him, and he'll listen. I mean, he actually listens.
Yeah, I think he does.
And if somebody has a better idea, he will use their idea. I mean, henceforth, you have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. You have, all of these ideas that he came up with during he didn't come up
They
with
were
them.
pitched to him.
They were pitched to him during the campaign, and he said, that's a great idea. And he took them on because he knew that those were things that were going to really resonate with people. He's smart. But at the same time, yes, at the end of the day, he's the one that says yes or no.
Yeah, and I just think that's...
Yeah, you can't have somebody with a totally different philosophy that is going to be working against you.
It's not going to work.
No.
They're going to work against him, and he's got to have people around he trusts.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he'll bring Linda McMahon back.
Possibly.
I don't know, over HUD. Might bring Ben Carson back.
Ben Carson's very good.
He had that. I don't know if he'd leave his post. What's his name? They had a Cantor Fitzgerald that was at the Madison Square Garden rally. He's a business guy that Trump could trust.
Really, I don't know. I'll tell you a guy I really like. I wish Kevin O'Leary would take a position somewhere.
Yeah.
But they're going to go through his money, and he's not going to want to go through a Senate confirmation.
Yeah.
He's not going to want to do that. So maybe he'll have a kitchen cabinet. Elon and RFK and a few other people. Maybe they'll be his kitchen cabinet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's difficult. HUD, Dr. Oz was somebody I was thinking that might take a position like, not HUD, HHS.
Okay.
Surgeon General.
Yeah.
That might be a role for him.
Be a good role for him.
So, I mean, whether he wants to do it or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it should be interesting to see what he puts together.
Mm-hmm.
But at the rate that he hired Susie Wiles, I think you're going to see it rolled out sooner rather than later. And
Probably.
I think he understands he's got to get going. Because here's the truth, Jay, and I hate to think about the 26 and 28 elections already.
Yeah.
But he's got 18 months in his second term to govern. To be honest with you, because
Trump will tell you he has 100 days.
Right, but that's
not. It.
That's not right.
I
got
know. He's
till
got a
the
little
spring
longer,
of 26.
He does.
Because once that hits, it's all about the midterms, and after the midterms, it's all about electing Vance. I mean, it's he has a year and a half to get maybe 20% of it he can do by himself through executive order and foreign policy and a few other things he's got. But his economic agenda and the broader stuff he wants to do on the border, I don't just mean reversing executive orders that were reversed. I think he has to deal with the people who are here. I think it will take congressional action to do some of that.
Yeah.
I think he has to be, I think his economic tax package, which I personally would like to see him pass piecemeal, not as one big glump of like he did last time, which wasn't all on him.
Right.
Congress has to take a lot of blame for some of it.
Yes.
But I don't want the 2,000-page, let's just have no taxes on tips and just vote on that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? No taxes on overtime. That's it. I would like to see that, not it in some big mess. So there's a lot to do, but I think he'll figure it out. Okay. Boy, do we have a lot of winners and losers though Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And I wrote some down. I know you have some too. Well, let's start with a winner.
Okay.
I'm going to throw a winner out at you.
I like winners.
And you throw a winner back out at me when I'm done.
Oh, boy.
You'll think of them.
Yeah.
You know what my number one win? Not number one. This is in no particular order. But I think a big winner world peace.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think foreign policy was an unspoken. There were 3 or 4. Look, the election was a rejection of the Biden-Harris economic and border policy.
Yes.
Overwhelmingly.
Absolutely.
There's no question
and
about
economic
it.
policy.
Yes. Inflation, economic, border. That fueled 75% of this vote.
Yep.
There were 3 or 4 underlying issues that I think cut in Trump's favor.
Yeah.
And I think foreign policy was one. I think there's a real angst.
Yeah.
There's a real feeling that no one's in control.
Uh-huh.
You have the 2 big situations. Well, 3 if you say us versus China.
Yeah.
But I would say the Israeli-Palestinian Hamas issue, where we've had an administration play both sides. We've had hostages taken for a year.
Yeah.
Funny, Hamas came out yesterday with feelers that they want to negotiate. Isn't that convenient now?
Yeah,
I wonder why. That was reported. I think Glenn Beck or Tucker or somebody was talking about that. But I mean, I think the Russia-Ukraine, where we have done nothing to stop that war, we have prolonged it. We've wrote Ukraine a blank check. Apparently, Zelensky and Trump talked yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah. So I assume Trump's already talked about it. He wants to walk into office with something done on that.
Yes.
And I'm guessing if it's still going on when Trump takes the oath, we're going to actually hear about the casualties and stuff over there, which is being our mainstream media won't report on.
Right.
But we've prolonged this war. Hundreds of thousands of people have died. And this administration has no answers. They have zero.
Right.
And they have zero answers on either
Flood
one
it
of
with
them.
more money, more weapons.
Yeah, Israel has the right to defend himself, but every time they do, they call for a ceasefire. Won't work. And
Right.
I think Trump understands. Look, peace at any price is not peace.
No.
But I think that who's going to bring anyone think Kamala Harris is going to sit down and intimidate Vladimir Putin to do anything? No.
Yeah, no.
Okay, did anybody think Harris gives 2 craps about you think Netanyahu takes her seriously?
No.
Not a chance. Netanyahu comes to the United States and he meets with Trump.
Yeah. That's
Doesn't talk to the administration now. So
Yeah.
I think I think world peace through strength, I think I'm so much more confident.
Yeah.
Because the one thing about it, how many countries, Jay, nowadays have a nuclear weapon? There was a time when you and I were, younger that it was 2, and the threat of one annihilating another kept the other from.
Right. But now you've got madmen like Kim Jong-un. You've got Iran on the brink of having a nuclear weapon. India and Pakistan. There's not madmen.
They're friendly countries, but for how long? I don't know. Pakistan's over in the Middle East.
And it is a Muslim nation.
It's a tribal country.
But so far we've had, I don't know about allies, but because they allowed Al-Qaeda to set up there and stuff like that.
They play both sides sometimes. Yeah. I think Iran has a nuclear weapon without the delivery system.
Yeah.
I think the Russians have been helping them. So, yeah, it's a much more dangerous world, and I just feel so much. I think world peace took a big step.
Yeah.
So I think world peace is a winner. So, Jay, I'll throw it to you. Give me another winner. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of the same. But
yeah, we might. I think another.
Now, when we play this game,
yeah,
it's not a game. It can be an issue, a person, a group, whatever. By the way, who sang the song? I forgot the song.
Oh, that was AC/DC, Back in Black.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't even remember it now that I was so excited to start talking. I didn't even.
Yes.
Thunderstruck.
Yeah. No, I saw something today. Where was it? Was it the U of M said that they were going to be taking a day off so that people could heal, and having
Harvard did it too.
Having music therapy or something like that. And I'm like, I had some music therapy too. I put Back in Black on as loud as I could, and I cranked it up. It felt pretty good.
We should hook them up to an electric machine. That's seen in Ghostbusters. All right, Jay, give me a winner election night.
Goodness. Well, I think it goes without saying that Texas was a winner. It proved that despite pouring $1 billion into a state, that the people of Texas still know who they are. So I think the people of Texas really were a winner. I'm not talking about the government of Texas. I'm not talking about any of that. But the people of Texas,
they couldn't be
there's
bought.
a reason they call it the Republic of Texas, because they are not your typical soy and
you can't
bagel.
make those assumptions about
it. It's a state that is not made up of Jacob Fries. I'll tell you that.
I saw a county map of Texas.
Yes.
It broke down 25-13 now in Congress there.
Yeah.
After the redistricting and some seats going, and it was in 22 as well. But you see a sea of red.
Yeah.
And really, Austin and Houston are really the only areas of blue. I mean, even the Metroplex.
A little on the southern border, too.
A little bit, but for the most part, I mean, that ain't changing anytime soon down there. But yes, Texas definitely a winner. And a winner by a big margin. I'll tell you what, the liberal dream of influxing a bunch of illegal aliens to try to flip that state, boy, has that backfired.
Yeah.
You know what's happening is the Hispanics and stuff are coming to Texas. They're like, I kind of like no income tax. I kind of like like school choice.
Yeah.
They're getting there. They're voting Republican.
Yeah.
Maybe Democrats will support deportation down there, because I mean the Hispanic vote is not going their way down there.
No, it's not.
It's the liberal yuppie vote that's in Austin and Houston that's going their way. I gotta say that I did not have Texas on my list, but I definitely think that was a winner. How about a loser? I'll give you a loser first.
Okay.
You think of one.
All right.
I'm going to say a loser is DEI. Was a big loser. And nobody symbolizes that more than Harris.
Oh.
I mean, here's somebody who was picked because she was a woman. Joe Biden literally said it.
Yeah.
And I think she was partly anointed because of that, too.
Yeah.
If she'd been a white guy, the Democrats might have had a different process. But I think they felt like they couldn't push out a minority woman. I think that was a big deal there.
Although nobody liked her going in. She didn't even make it to Iowa.
Still nobody likes her.
Well, there is that.
There was two candidates for president. It was Trump and not Trump.
Right.
But I think the whole concept of the radical DEI concept took a beating.
Oh, yes.
On election night. And again, I think it was another underlying issue.
Yeah.
Was just this whole identity politics, and I think Trump's cut through a lot of that. But I think just the whole thing about how, because I'm a conservative that thinks affirmative action was necessary at one time, but we're supposed to be a meritocracy, and that's got to be restored. So I think DEI Tuesday night was a big loser.
Absolutely.
Give me a loser, Jay.
The mainstream media.
See, I put old media on my corporate media.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they're done for. I mean, they're
still there, but
they'll be there. They're trying their best, but when you have, there's no reason to do a debate ever again.
No,
There's
and
not. Not when you can go on podcasts and talk for 3 hours about your positions.
Right.
I don't see any reason to have a debate.
Well,
I mean, if you do, you can do it in a podcast format.
Well, yeah, and I don't like 1 minute answers. I think it just gives the canned Kamala Harris answer.
Yeah.
And there's no follow up. But I mean, if it's going to be 3-on-1,
Yeah.
Republicans have to refuse. They have to refuse.
They have to.
I mean, Vance went through it. Trump did it twice. I'll say CNN was fair enough to him.
They were.
Tapper and Dana Bash, but they were fair to him that night. The other two were jokes.
Yeah.
And you're right. Debates is also, but yes, corporate media and just real journalism, I think, is just on life support. It's there. It's going to be there because the big money is behind them. Here's my question, Jay.
Yeah.
Do they ever do, they've done so much damage to themselves. Do they ever do a mea culpa?
No. I don't think they can ever admit it. Because if they ever admit the degree to which they have, supported the Democrat Party.
But that's obvious.
Well, of course it is. But they can't admit it because that will be the collapse. They feel, I believe, like they can hold on if they deny, and continue down the path.
Yeah, worked for Pete Rose.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. But I mean, like, the thing I can't get over is the whole Biden thing.
Right.
They turn on Biden.
Yeah.
And act like for years they didn't prop him up or protect him. That's the one I can't get past. That is the biggest scandal that I can think of from the mainstream media ever in my lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Joe Scarborough, that's the best Joe Biden I've ever seen. A month later, I saw him and he didn't know who I was. Well, what kind of journalism is that?
Exactly.
Now, if Joe Scarborough wants to be an opinion guy, that's fine. Go make your own podcast and be an opinion guy, and all 12 people who like you will tune in. Yeah. Okay, but I mean, you can't masquerade as Mike Wallace and act like that.
Right. And CNN, I mean, firing Brian Stelter for as nuts as he is, and then bringing him back.
I know.
Bringing Jeffrey Toobin back.
They finally did one thing right. No, Don Lemon will be back before we know it.
Right. But yeah, I think the future is citizen journalism. It's podcasts, it's blogs, it's localized podcasts and blogs. I think that and you're going to see it on social media. You're going to have things that are on Spotify or whatever. But again, it's going to be, I think, a lot of journalism through TikTok, a lot of journalism through Twitter, but it's going to be people that are rising up, videoing things. That's already the trend.
Yeah, and that's all because journalists only have themselves to blame.
Yes.
They can only blame themselves. I don't feel sorry for them. They can all go to heck. Because I had new media as a huge winner, but they kind of go together.
Yeah.
So I in fact, I'm going to give you a winner.
Okay.
That kind of relates to what we were talking about. The First Amendment.
Yes.
I think was a big winner.
Oh, absolutely.
The misinformation, malinformation, censorship.
It's not going away, unfortunately, because you're going to have these social media companies that are still going to have these experts come and fact check everything the government does. All of a sudden, they're going to be
they're fact checking Trump all of a sudden.
Right.
But I think that I was very worried if Trump lost that they'd go after Twitter, they'd go after Elon.
Yeah.
And I think the First Amendment, at least in that forum, I think really was a big, big winner. The First Amendment and new media beat the old media.
Yes.
And I think the First Amendment is a big-time winner on Tuesday night. Jay.
Yeah.
What's another winner? What else won?
Oh, winning, you'll get sick of it, right?
Charlie Sheen, right? Yeah. Winning.
I think that we kind of already talked about it, but I think foreign diplomacy is going to be a big winner. Not just peace, but when we're looking at how the U.S. has dealt with, like, the
NATO, and things like that.
I mean, NATO. You've got the World Economic Forum, the
globalism,
the UN. Right. Well, that's going to be a loser.
Yeah.
Globalism is going to be the loser, but the U.S. is going to be a winner.
Yeah.
And a lot of these other countries that are willing to align themselves with the United States. I think probably Japan is glad we're back. There's going to be these other countries: El Salvador, Argentina,
Taiwan.
These countries are all glad. Hungary, Viktor Orban. He was one of the first to congratulate Trump.
How about the dollar? Is that a winner?
The dollar is going to be a winner. Yeah. The digital dollar is going to be a loser.
Yeah, big time. So America first is a winner. I mean, that's another way to look at it too. That America and the people who want to be our partners are going to definitely be in a better place.
Yes.
After Tuesday, no doubt about it.
How do you think this affects BRICS? Now, when Trump was in office before, the Indian was he prime minister, I think. He was really close with Trump. He loved Trump. Yeah. India loved Trump. Now, are they going to leave BRICS because Trump's back?
No,
you don't think so?
Well,
and Brazil, if Bolsonaro is able to come back, or somebody like him, will they leave BRICS?
I don't know. I don't know about the internal forces in those countries.
Yeah.
India did love Trump. Remember when he went to that soccer stadium or whatever, and it was it's like, I mean, it was like the Pope coming or something. It was just ridiculous. But I mean, I can't even think of an equivalent that I would think of. It was amazing. I don't know. I think maybe eventually. I think it just depends on I think the internal political forces and whether or not they I think again, this is where the US influence, I don't know behind the scenes what was said, you know, if there were threats made, he would do this or blah blah blah. I think we're going to find out.
Yeah. Here's what I think. Brazil, under their current arrangement, won't leave.
No.
If they get somebody like Bolsonaro back, they will.
Probably.
Russia, obviously not going to leave. They want to see the United States. They loved where we were at under Biden.
Sure.
India, I think it's a possibility they'll leave because they did pretty well under Trump because they had a lot of people coming here, working tech jobs, working whatever kind of, you know, even on green cards, and it did a lot of good for their country.
Yeah, but legally, they did it all legally.
Right, legally, exactly. Yeah. China, obviously not going to leave. They want to overthrow the United States, too. Loved the Biden-Harris administration.
Yes, but I think we need to do something to drive a wedge between Russia and China that, you know, and I'm not sure what that is at this point. China's actually kind of in a recession right now.
And that's a great opportunity for us to be able to apply leverage, especially with tariffs.
And I mean, just the threat of it to get what we want. That's what Trump kept trying to explain.
Right.
That, look, I'm going to use it as a tool. And the press never pointed out how many tariffs Biden has left on. I wish somebody would, you know, while he rips them, he kept them on anyway.
Yeah.
So, he's going to have to thread the needle over there. I do think that scenario you lay out is possible, but I think driving a wedge between Russia and China, especially while China's economy is the only thing keeping China going is building. I think this is one way Trump could do it. I'm going to give you another winner.
Before you do that, last country in there is South Africa. They're a mess.
A total mess.
They're a total mess right now. And so what they're going to do, who knows? And they're not really very consequential on the world stage anyways. So I'm a little less worried about that.
I'm a little less, but it's another place where we should have an ally there.
Yeah,
and
we should.
We had a good relationship with them before, and I think that's repairable there.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to give you another winner. I was going to go to a loser, but I think thinking about China, another winner is the oil and energy market.
Yes.
I own stock in BP, and I can tell you yesterday was a very nice day
for
my portfolio. But I think that Trump comes in, I think by about 3 o'clock on January 20th, before he goes to the inaugural ball, he's going to roll back the ban on fracking on federal lands, as well as the leases, because that's the first thing in bringing prices down. Is you have to bring, especially the cost of diesel fuel, you have to bring those costs down because it's baked into every price. And I think that's also a way to compete with China. What's keeping China's economy going is the fact that they're building 2 refineries a week while we're decommissioning them. If we can outdo them, that gives us even more leverage. Not only can we lower the price, be less dependent on foreign energy, but we can also beat the Chinese on there. But that industry, that market, not to mention what we're going to pay out of pocket, is a big winner on Tuesday.
Yes.
I'll give you a loser.
Okay.
How about anti-Trump Republicans?
Oh, boy.
How about the Lincoln Project?
They won the Democrat Party. It's theirs now.
I'll tell you, Anybody see what Rick Wilson said?
No, I did not.
I think he got rid of his account on Twitter, but along with David Plouffe, who ran away as soon as things got tough, little wimp. But I think the Republicans for Harris, the principled people, the neocons, and the I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth here. As far as like neocon foreign policy and all that, that's gone and it's not reversible.
It's gone from the Republican Party. It's in the Democrat Party now.
The Republicans are not going back to that. It's not happening.
No.
And I think the rejection of, I think there's some political careers that are over, namely Chris Christie, Mike Pence.
Yep.
I think Nikki Haley's career's over. I wouldn't offer her a job to save my life.
You think she did come around to Trump and actually did some campaigning for him?
A little bit, but she pissed me off a lot.
Yeah.
She goes on national TV, Trump hasn't called me to do anything. Well, get off your dead ass and show up to something. What do you need, an invitation?
Yeah.
Well, but what,
get out there.
Exactly. I mean, that was just really, she ticks me off. And maybe her career's not dead, but her career as a national candidate's dead. Huh? We're not going back to the Bush, McCain, Romney, open borders, globalist free trade, endless wars. That's gone. That Bill Kristol map, that's gone. It's not reversible. It's not going to be there anymore. Yeah. But I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth.
Okay.
I still welcome them in the Republican Party because my answer to that is that we've seen some of those Republicans stay and work with, Newt Gingrich put it very well, that the Republican Party's changed. I get it. I don't agree with it 100%, but I ain't voting Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've never understood it. I've never understood how a Liz Cheney could support the party that tried to put her dad in jail. I do not get it.
Yeah.
And it's, what it tells me? It's personal. Mm-hmm. It's childish. It's, again, I think with people like Bolton, Cheney, people like that, they are worried about themselves and the real truth of their roles coming out. And I think that there's I'll get to another loser in a minute, but I think the anti-Trump Republican movement is either going to wither away, they're going to become Democrats, or some of them will come back into the fold. But I think that as a movement I think they lost anything, because it is hard to say, it's hard to not eat crow there. And if you don't, no one's sitting there talking about how, Dick Cheney supports her. That didn't move Andy. That didn't move the needle whatsoever. If you're 30, you don't even know who Dick Cheney is. And if you're old enough to remember him, you probably didn't like him. So I just don't think that moved very many people.
No, he's not a likable guy. Even Trump had talked about like how he had helped Scooter Libby out at the beginning of his first term when Obama wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And Dick Cheney was super thankful that President Trump did that. But then to turn his back on him, I mean, yeah, okay,
I think it had a lot to do with Liz,
a lot to do with his daughter, but she kind of made her own bed.
Yeah, she laid her bed with the anti-January 6th crowd, knowing that somebody would primary her, and when she got creamed, she decided to go with the opposition, and now she's I don't know what she's totally irrelevant. Yeah. Just more than irrelevant.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the anti-Trump Republican's a huge loser. Give me another loser, Jay. Good
question.
Oh, come on.
I was ready with a winner, and so that's
okay. Give me a winner. Don't matter.
It doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the market is a big winner. Capitalism, because you are now going to be able to make conventional vehicles again in the United States, and
so is the Green New Deal the big loser then?
I guess that would be a big loser. Yeah, the Green New Deal.
It's like for every winner, there's a loser.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not just going to be in cars. I think the auto workers are super thrilled, and but I think you're going to see this in all sorts of different industries. I think that especially with having Elon around, that it's going to
the market's going to decide it, not the government. I think that's,
right.
Yeah,
and hopefully they will repeal enough restrictions and so forth that it will really open up the thought process again of inventors, and we can shoot for the actual stars instead of
the Kamala stars.
The Kamala's
the burden of the stars is unburdened by the night.
Kamala's stars, unfortunately, all were just trying to stay out of trouble from being at P. Diddy parties. So that's.
And here is where Congress really needs to step up.
Yes.
Because I have no doubt that President Trump is going to do what he can personally.
With the EPA and things like that.
Executively, there's things he can do. But for the big change,
it's got to come through Congress.
We got to write it legislatively. And that's where Congress can't let him down.
Right.
And so, I agree. It's huge. But capitalism, definitely, we talked already about like meritocracy, and I have no issue with anybody who wants to buy an electric car,
right?
But the electric cars should go compete in the marketplace. That's how you make them better.
Yes,
that's how you innovate. You don't. When Henry Ford created the assembly line, he didn't sit there and wait for the government to give him a tax credit to do it. He went and did it with his own money and his own people. And that's these other industries. They sit there and they wait for our tax dollars before they go build something. Why don't you just build something?
Yes.
And sell it, market it, and that's how you're going to bring the price down.
Yeah.
So it's just, all right.
I did come up with a loser. I can wait my turn, though, if you like.
Wait your turn, because I got a good loser.
All right.
Really good loser. How about the CIA and the FBI as a huge loser?
Yes.
Tell you what, if I'm Chris Wray at the FBI, I'm ready to get my severance check right now. I bet he's the first guy fired.
He might be.
The guy who under oath said Trump didn't get shot at Butler.
Yeah.
And he is the first guy gone. The CIA, I wonder if they're going to survive when Trump releases all those files.
They might not.
I mean, JFK, Martin Luther King, Roswell. You're talking like we talked about before on other shows. This is a government agency that has not had oversight since the 70s, since the Church Committee.
Right.
And I don't know if they'll survive. I really don't. So I think you talk about losers.
Yeah.
The CIA and the FBI are, and even the Secret Service to a degree,
yes,
not the top I'm talking about. I think they're going to get decapitated.
Yes.
So I don't know if the CIA will be there. I really don't. But that's another thing. I bet January 20th. I bet on his way to the inaugural ball, signs off on a few things to release, and it'll be interesting to comb through that. But Trump said on Joe Rogan, they're going.
Yeah.
So I believe him. If there's any question he's going to do it.
No.
So, there's a loser. Now, go you can be a loser.
How do I phrase this? I think most nations in Latin America are going to prosper, and you have Argentina that and El Salvador and countries like that are in agreement with him and are going to be good partners. Then you have countries like Mexico and Venezuela that have emptied out their prisons.
Yeah.
They're going to get all of them back.
That's right. Hope they didn't shut down the electricity at their mental institutions.
You have the president of Mexico who refused to call President Trump until everything has been fully counted.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, she's not going to enjoy it when he comes and says, you're going to...
You know what?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You might not have to build a wall. They might just start doing it right now.
Right.
The drug cartels, they're all huge losers. They're going to lose 90% of their market share.
That's true.
That's right. There's a lot of countries that are losers out of that.
Yeah.
You want a winner?
Yes.
How about women's sports?
Yes. I was going to say that. That was on my list.
Yeah, you talk about another underlying issue in the campaign, the whole trans surgery for illegal aliens in prison. But I think women's sports, I think there's a fair amount of Democrats who honestly don't support. I think they just are afraid to be called transphobes.
Yeah.
But I think women's sports is a big winner here. I think that the idea that, almost everybody sees something wrong with that.
Yes.
And the idea that people should not be afraid to say that. I want to thank people like Riley Gaines and people like that for really speaking up and taking a lot of guff. J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
And other people who've taken just a beating, Abby Schreier, and who she's done so much to. When she was on Joe Rogan, I mean, it was one of the best episodes as far as what happens to these young people and so on. But I think the biological women's sports is a big time winner in this election.
Absolutely, and there are very few people, horrible people, that like to see a woman get punched in the face by a man, that like to see a woman receive a volleyball to the face at 100 miles an hour from a man. I'm sorry. That is not...
What's the
not
difference?
Entertainment. That's not competitive.
What's the difference between that and domestic violence?
There's none.
If a husband fired a volleyball in his wife's face... Would that be okay?
Yeah. And I can't wait for the showdown that's going to come when the Olympics are here in...
He's at the IOC right now.
Because remember, at the last Olympics...
Is it 2028 or is it 26? It's 28 because the winter ones aren't in L.A.
Right.
26.
Yeah, that would be a weird Winter Olympics.
Yeah, I know. What do you do? Ski at Laguna Beach?
But I wonder if there's going to be a showdown out of that.
Well, I think if there isn't, I think you've got to. I think what you're seeing right now is, there's some women's teams that are boycotting events. I think you see more of that. I think the NCAA is the first place that it's got to go. I mean, they're a terrible organization.
Oh, they're a terrible organization. But, I mean, if we pass a law against men competing in women's sports in this country, I think that carries over to the Olympics. I'm sorry, there's a law in this nation, and men cannot compete in women's sports.
Yeah, they're not exempt from it.
No. So I see a showdown coming.
Yeah, there could be. I think it's a good showdown. It's a showdown we want.
Absolutely. We want that showdown.
I kind of have that.
Yeah.
Down.
Have you looked at all about the plans that are starting to come together for the 250-year anniversary of our nation?
Yes.
It looks so good.
I'm so happy Trump's going to be president for that.
I know. Could you imagine if
that's next year?
That it starts next year. They want to start like on Memorial Day of 25 and have events in every state in the nation until Independence Day of 26.
That's right. 26 is the
and then they're going to have America's State Fair at the Iowa State Fairgrounds if they're getting this all worked out.
Yeah, man, it's like the World's Fair used to be.
That's exactly the model that they want to use. And having high school athletes from all over the nation, inventors, all sorts of things to showcase to the world how awesome America is, and inviting world leaders in to see it, and talking about just the tourism dollars that are going to come in, and it's going to be amazing.
American spirit, I would agree, and the thing is too, I can remember Biden and Harris just kind of like, well, our standard of living just isn't what it is, what it used to be.
Yeah,
it's just not it. This election so had a 1980 feeling to it.
Yeah.
The old Jimmy Carter stagflation and misery index.
Right.
And it's kind of like, I always think back to 1980 and we picked the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Americans have a habit of picking the right person for the right time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh man, boy, we didn't screw that up. And this election had a 1980 feel to it.
Yeah.
There's this misery index. There's this, I don't want to call it malaise, but there's this, kind of doom over the country. And you do feel it changing now. 2 days and I feel better. It's like I have hope again.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, there definitely is that feeling. You want a good loser?
Yes.
How about abortion as a loser?
Well, I mean,
it
did okay.
Let me explain it.
Yes.
The Democrats ran in 22 screaming abortion, abortion, abortion.
Yes.
The Republicans didn't have a real good answer in 22. Abortion didn't work. In the presidential election, it had no effect.
Absolutely not.
And I'm not sure if it backfired. Because President Trump made it clear that he is adamantly against late-term abortion. He's for the exceptions, and I'm going to let the states decide the in-between.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of overturning Roe v. Wade.
Mm-hmm.
You go talk to your legislator and governor about it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where I stand, and that's just the way. And I think he knew. I wish we would have came up with that in 2022.
Well, we'll have another opportunity for that in 26.
But I mean, I think that the Democrats, part of the party, still thought that they could just scream that. I mean, Florida's the best example I can think of it, and Sherrod Brown out in Ohio did nothing but try to talk about that.
Yeah.
And it absolutely did not work. And like Bernie Moreno pointed out, we passed an amendment here in Ohio last year.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you talking about? And it just didn't work. It just didn't work. I mean, I don't know how many abortion commercials I saw. I think they've gone too far with it.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Biden Harris will not support any restrictions, they won't even answer the question.
Yeah.
I think that also backfires, because I think while a lot of people maybe support abortion rights generally speaking, you get into month 7, month 8, that's when you see the opinion really change. Yeah. So I think they overplayed that hand very much so, mm-hmm. and I think it's going to continue to go down as an issue, because as these amendments and stuff get passed, Democrats are going to lose steam on that.
Yeah.
So I think that was a very gross miscalculation on their part, that they could just scream that issue and not have to talk about anything else. not have to take any accountability for the economy and the border.
Right.
They tried that. They did it in 22. They tried it again, and it failed.
Yep.
So I think that was pretty much a loser, generally speaking.
I think you're right.
On election night.
Another loser is the DFL.
Well, they were they definitely...
They lost their majority in the House, and I think Tim Walz had a lot to do with that. And their agenda over the last 2 years had a lot to do with that.
And some good individual people running, too.
It
was
that
a
helps,
combination
obviously.
of all. But they gave them issues to run on.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
all part of that.
I think there's enough fear about what another 2 years of a Democrat trifecta would do in this state. I think now we don't have to worry about the Equal Rights Amendment. I think now that...
Wow.
Yeah, that's a huge one in and of itself. That's a huge victory for Minnesotans. The Equal Rights Amendment, becoming a sanctuary state, is off the table now. And there's some other, big pieces of legislation that Democrats are not going to be able to force through in these next 2 years.
Oh, I love when the legislature goes through months and does nothing.
Oh, it's
Isn't
my
that
favorite.
the greatest thing on earth?
Yes.
I come back from fishing because I intentionally don't listen at the end of the session.
Yeah.
And then I come back from fishing and Memorial Day. Now I got to pay it.
Right.
It's in my blood. I got to pay attention. And I see how both sides are ticked off. That's a great sign that nothing got done. Can I give you a winner?
Yeah.
This is a weird one. Democracy was a huge winner. If you look at the Democrats, 3 consecutive elections, they have anointed a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
2016, Obama and the money men, whoever they are in the Democratic Party, decided to go with Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
He screwed Joe Biden. It created the Bernie Sanders movement. And they literally, and I think it partly created the Trump movement too.
Yeah.
They completely gutted Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
Who maybe in a fair fight might have beaten Mrs. Clinton.
Yeah.
Same thing happened in 2020. Sanders wins Iowa, wins New Hampshire. What do? The money men get together with all the candidates and coalesce around Biden.
Right.
To make it one-on-one, and that's when Biden won. 2024, they shut out anybody from running against Biden. Then when they can't hide Biden anymore, they pull a coup and install the vice president.
Right.
You've had 3 straight times where the word democracy should have nothing to do with the Democratic Party.
Yeah. I would argue it's even 4 straight times because how Barack Obama beat Clinton really had a lot to do with their lack of democratic process as well.
There's good case to be made for that too.
Yeah.
I think Obama was underestimated by the Clintons too. But
I think so.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, he's not a talentless guy.
No, but if you go back to 2008 and the way they do their delegates and the way Mrs. Clinton won Texas, won California, won New York, won Florida, and somehow Obama won the I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
She won Pennsylvania, she won Ohio, and Obama gets the nomination. I don't know. I don't know enough about their process to know that.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think the superdelegates might have favored her, but by that time you couldn't maneuver that. I mean, but the power of the superdelegates has gone down in the party.
Yeah.
But still, I think it's so. I just laugh when the Democrats talk about democracy.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are the most undemocratic people on the face of the earth. We all know that the money men and whoever they are control you.
Yeah.
A vote for Harris or Biden is a vote for the shadow government of whoever is running things.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. But I think democracy was a winner. I think the people proved that on election night.
Another big loser, Hollywood and the music industry.
Yeah, I was going to say, elites, I think, is a good way
Yeah,
to put
I
it.
mean, you've got up-and-coming musicians who did some great things for Trump, and you have a whole new set of celebrities in like Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and a different type of thing. But when you look at Julia Roberts, Bruce Springsteen, no effect on this election whatsoever. Beyonce.
You know, I this is one of my big losers. And I'm going to couple this, Jay, with experts and elites.
Yes.
Like I said at the beginning, Trump won because of immigration and the economy. I mean, those were the two overriding issues, no question about it.
Yeah.
But the arrogant liberal condescension is something that can't be ignored.
Right.
The Democrats have become the party of experts and professors and
Yes.
big tech and how dare you question me? I'm a climatologist. I can't possibly be wrong.
And that's been something that they have developed since 1900. I mean, really.
But I think there's been times where they were more in tune with the population than they are now. I mean,
it's more veiled, but
possibly. But I think a guy like Kennedy or a guy like Clinton, I think we're way more in tune with the average
Kennedy
worker. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Harry Truman, I think, was another guy who could relate to the everyman.
Yeah, that's true.
I think, especially under Obama, I really think this changed to where they became the party of the gated neighborhoods and it's real easy for somebody in Hollywood to scream defunded the police when they've got their gated community and personal security.
Right.
I mean, it's just, I think Americans have had it with experts. They have had it. I think COVID played a role in this. They have had it with being talked down to.
Yes.
And I think you can't dismiss that here. Part of Trump is an FU to the people in charge or the people who think they're so smart or the college professors and that elite media group. I mean, I think that the way that the Democrats fix this is to actually go out and Mark Halperin said something to Tucker Carlson that I will not forget. He's one of the few mainstream media people who gets the Trump people.
Yeah.
And Tucker Carlson kept, how did you know Trump was going to win back in 2016? He goes, I followed Trump in 30 states. I talked to his supporters. It was obvious he could win.
Yeah.
He was talking about real issues. It was connecting issues that both parties had ignored, that the elites had ignored, whether that was the border, whether that was trade deals, whether that was, you name it. And he goes, it was obvious he could win.
Right.
And I think that's what has to happen. You got to stop looking down. And the weird part is there was a time where the Democrats were the party who didn't care how smart you were,
right,
or what your last name was, or what. It's the elite, but the elites, the Hollywood, the big media, the big tech, the experts, horrid losers.
Yes,
just big time. God, I love it. And you know what? It's tough because I love Robert De Niro as an actor.
I do too.
I love him. I love Bruce Springsteen.
I do too.
When he wants to go have a concert, I'd pay and go watch him.
Yeah.
But they ain't gonna tell me how to vote.
Nope.
It's just that simple. So, and look, I love Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But he don't tell me how to vote either. He can have his opinion, and that's fine. And he's fun to listen to. He's not an angry guy.
No.
Like the people on the left are. But I mean, it's just the thing about the celebrities around Trump is it was an optimistic, Dr. Phil had a great speech at MSG, and I would encourage people to listen to Dr. Phil. It was very smart. It was very pro free speech, and I think that's one of the issues that brought Phil out of his. Phil's never been political, and you can tell though that he's been seething about some issues. But he gave a great speech at MSG that I wish would have been talked about, but it was too good for the mainstream media to listen. Right. They had to find bad things. So, all right, Jay, what's another loser? You think of another loser?
Oh, we're getting through a lot of these. I don't know. I mean, there's goodness. I think another loser is going to be like the how do you say it? Like it kind of ties in with the whole expert thing. I mean, because that's I think separate from the elites a little bit, but especially when it comes with like the medical
So the CDC,
the CDC,
the
and the we're going to tell you how to live. We're going to you have to take the shot. There's going to be no more forced COVID boosters. You're not going to see the government saying, "Have you taken your COVID booster this year?" I think that's all done.
Yeah, I think those PSA commercials are going to end on January 19th or 20th.
And guys like Fauci and his minions that were running the gain of function testing, and I think that's all done.
I wanted to see. Speaking of that, they have been hiding all them documents from like Rand Paul's committee and all that.
Yeah.
Oh boy, Trump will give it to them.
Oh yeah,
no question. We're gonna find all that out. We're gonna find out who's been president the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So you're never gonna convince me it's this guy.
No
way. I'm gonna give you a winner.
Okay.
It's a person.
Yeah.
J.D. Vance.
Oh yeah.
I think is a huge winner.
Absolutely.
I think he is the heir apparent.
Yeah.
I think he's going to spend the next couple of years. I think Trump will give him a fair amount of work. Some of it might be diplomatic. I think he's going to need to go around and kind of do what George Bush Sr. did.
Yeah.
And be kind of a person that's seen on the world stage a lot. I don't think there's any question he's the 2028 front runner right now. But I think he's a huge winner. Big time. And I think he's got the pedigree to take the mantle. Because Trump can only serve one term, so
that's true.
Somebody he's got to think about it. I think he was a good pick, and I think he's definitely a winner.
Yeah, I agree. Another winner would be Trump's family.
Yeah, for sure.
My word, I mean, just all of them rose to the occasion and just were flawless for him.
How about Trump's daughter-in-law? The work she did.
Yeah, I
Laura
mean, she
Trump.
turned around an institution that I thought should have been scrapped.
They had point
the
people
RNC.
in every state doing early voting and registration. His family. By the way.
Go ahead.
By the
unless
way,
you're changing.
I saw his youngest son.
Yes. That's where I was headed.
6'9".
Yeah, he's so tall.
I didn't even recognize him.
But
I'm like, who's that?
He was behind the scenes in orchestrating a lot of the stuff with Theo Vaughn, with Joe Rogan. A lot of that came about because of the work that he was doing that you never heard about.
But you had to have that. You had to have the young guy. What is he, 20?
Yeah.
You had to have that. How do you get the 18 to 25-year-olds?
Yeah.
Well, I got one.
Yeah.
I know exactly. Don Jr. did a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, he did a lot of the. He's a lot of the reason that J.D. Vance was on the ticket.
Exactly. He was a big person who pushed J.D. without a doubt. Yeah, his family definitely is a winner. I got to throw a shout out too to his second wife.
Yeah,
who publicly congratulated Trump and is, for the record, voted for him all 3 times. Thank you, Marla, for not being a vindictive ex-wife or anything like that. It's classy.
Yeah,
what she's done. It's like Jane Wyman, who admitted she voted for Reagan both times.
Yeah.
So, give it to them. It's like you can spill somebody's dirty laundry, but like Marla Maples once said, he's the father of my daughter. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So you definitely. I'll give you another loser. How about lawfare as a huge loser?
Absolutely.
Going after your political opponent, trying to bankrupt. I mean, the cases are gone. You can't prosecute a sitting president. They're all gone. And what a waste. What a despicable thing it was.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. If I were Trump, I'd consider pardoning Hunter. I would consider just ending it all. You know what? I'm just going to end it. I'm going to wash my hands of this. Nobody can accuse me of being bitter and angry, even though he has every right to go after these prosecutors. He has every right to go after Merrick Garland. If he doesn't, there's no consequences.
Yeah.
But I believe in what Dr. Phil told him. Every situation has a hero. You can be one. And I want his agenda to go through.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And so I think it's to cut everything on January 20th. We're going to go forward now. But the lawfare, the January 6th prosecutions, the phony prosecutions, this phony Russia crap, lawfare is a gargantuan loser.
Yes.
Huge. Beyond just an incredible loser.
Yeah. I would like to say that it's over, but until we start flipping these DA seats and county attorney seats.
Well, Garcon got beat in L.A., and maybe it's the start of something.
I hope so. Moriarty, you're next.
Guy who beat him seems pretty good.
Good.
And how about that amendment that passed in California about no, we're not going to not have shoplifting be a crime.
Right.
Kamala Harris wouldn't talk about how she voted on it. I mean, who knows? I mean, as of right now, and I know a lot of the votes not count. Steve Garvey's got 44% of the vote out there.
That's a huge thing.
I think there is a awakening. It may take a long time for it to turn around.
Yeah.
But I think there are parts that are waking up a little bit.
A lot of Southern California is Hispanic.
Yeah.
And
they're
that
changing.
Can turn.
Yeah, they're changing big time.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you, how about another winner? How about labor as a winner? I think they're a winner for two reasons. One, they've made it clear that they are not to be taken for granted by the Democratic
blue-collar labor.
Blue-collar labor.
Yeah.
You're not, Democratic Party, we are not automatically endorsing you. We are not automatically voting for you.
Yeah.
You're going to earn our vote.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, and a credit to President Trump for going after it.
Yeah.
For recognizing that there was a difference between the brass and the workers, for recognizing that most union workers did not support their 5-year-old sons being girls, did not support. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there were votes to get there. Yeah. And I think he did it all 3 times that he ran. Mm-hmm. But this time in particular, I think they backed him. I think when all is said and done, private sector unions, I think he won them.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he performed better with unions than anybody since Reagan.
Probably.
So I think labor was smart in recognizing that. I mean, Sean O'Brien obviously is the front man for this, just recognizing things have changed a little bit, and my workers who he represents, they're not real happy about grocery prices and gas prices, and I think there's going to be a rethinking.
Yeah.
I would just love to see labor support the Republican Party. I would really like to see that.
Yeah.
So I think
It might happen in the blue collar labor. It's never going to happen with the teachers union or AFSCME or
probably not. But I do think that
SEIU.
Yeah, I do think though that if I'm a member of those unions, I got to be wondering. I hate being taken for granted. That's something that really bothers me.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of those workers, I think some of them are secretly not happy with their union brass.
Could be.
I mean, if I'm a teacher, why does that mean I'm liberal?
Because
why does it mean
the way they get taught in the universities?
Okay, but I don't know. I just think that you may see some cracks in that. But private sector unions definitely, I think, are a winner.
Yeah. I think another winner, minorities.
Yeah.
I think that finally they're going to be unleashed to be able to to come into their own.
They're not on the plantation
enjoy,
anymore.
Enjoy the American dream, that it is alive and well.
And I'll tell you, the lashing out I've seen at minorities.
Yeah.
Al Sharpton going on MSNBC and calling, saying Hispanic men won't vote for a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, that just...
Yeah, that is. Keep talking, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Keep talking there, Wizard of Oz. You're just making yourself look stupider. But I mean, again, I go back to the talking down to people.
Yeah.
Hispanic people buy groceries. They have jobs. They pay rent.
Yeah.
So why does that make them any different than their white neighbor making the same amount of money? I think that's one thing about Trump, too, is he took the same message to everybody.
Yes.
There wasn't one message for blacks and one message for women and one message for Jews.
Yeah.
And one, I mean, it was universal that you could relate to it.
The Democrat Party has become so nuanced that it's like we can support anti-Jew Muslims at the same time that we're supporting Jews. And we can do what's best for both of you.
Yeah.
Well, the Republican Party can do that too. It's called capitalism.
Yeah.
It's called equal opportunity. But it's not by getting embroiled in your petty, not that it's petty, because what's happened to the Jews has been going on for centuries.
Sure.
But you know what I mean?
It's not a political football.
It's not like, they are so nuanced that they're really phasing themselves out of mass appeal. And I think that is a trend that I'd like to see continue.
You know what I want to say for a loser?
Yeah.
How about the alleged Democrats' ground game?
Yeah.
A Republican, we got to stop fearing that.
Well, they do have lots of money. That is one thing they do have. But again, $1 billion in Texas, they lost.
But it's relied on too many big donors.
Yeah.
Go look at Trump. He raised money like Bernie Sanders. It was 50, 100. But there were something like, I missed the figure. It was millions of people gave money to Trump. I mean, yes, they have a lot of money, but how do they deploy it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Harris's campaign is $20 million in debt after this election. Where did $1 billion go that they allegedly had? I mean, my thing is their ground game is so overrated.
Yeah.
I mean, it is something that every Republican I talk to gets scared of. And it's like, first off, it's not the same everywhere.
Yeah.
And just because you have a ground game, I mean, what happened to it? What happened to the, I'll tell you what some of it is.
Yeah.
Some of it is new election law. You go to Georgia.
Yeah.
No drop boxes, no ballot harvesting. No, we're not going to accept a ballot if it's late. No more same-day registration. No, early voting ends the Friday before the election. They kept to the law. Trump had people everywhere that were on. They won several court injunctions and moves in the days before the election. And I'm going to tell you, their ground game didn't adjust to it, and the Republicans' ground game was good.
Yes.
Not great. It was good. It wasn't the same everywhere. But I'm going to tell you something. The ground game, the gap between that caught up tremendously.
Yes.
The Dems' ground game was totally overrated. You look at, like I said, I don't know how Joe Biden got 81 million votes. I don't even want to speculate that. But you look at Philadelphia, Atlanta, Detroit, Milwaukee. Everything fell short.
Yeah.
And some of them fell short. I mean, they fell 700,000 mail-in votes short in Pennsylvania of what they did in 2020.
Yeah.
That wasn't all COVID. Democrats vote early by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Republicans were trying to change Republican voters' behavior.
Right.
Okay? Democrats weren't.
Yeah.
So why? Okay, why did that happen? And it was either lackluster candidate, depressed turnout, people weren't voting Democrat, or 2020 was an aberration, whatever you want to say. But the Dems ground game, P.U.
Yeah.
It was nada compared to what it was. And you got them pointing fingers. The Democrat who runs things in Philadelphia, I saw him on the news, was saying there was no coordination with the Harris people. There was nothing like that. I think their ground game is totally overrated.
Yes.
So yeah, PU Dems. How about another loser?
Yeah.
How about Barack Obama?
Yeah. He
How
couldn't
about
move
him?
the needle either.
Going in front of black people, trying to shame them to vote.
Yeah.
Not talking about issues. I mean, not understanding that there are reasons they're not voting for the Biden-Harris ticket. But I think he had a hand in the coup.
Yeah.
I think he had a hand in 2016 that they were going to go with Hillary instead of Biden.
Yeah.
He really didn't back Biden in 2020 till he had to.
Uh-huh.
He really didn't back Harris till he had to either.
Right.
But I think his ability to control things behind the scenes has either isn't what we think it is, or he has badly miscalculated. But I think you're going to see the Obama era. I think this drops the sunset on the Obama era.
Oh, I hope so.
Of the Democrats.
I hope so.
You know, because a lot of Biden's people were Obama's people too. Merrick Garland, Yellen, those were Biden people.
Yeah.
And or Obama people, I mean, Obama Biden people from before. But I think the Barack Obama era is gone.
Yeah.
Because he was a disaster. Michelle was a disaster too.
Oh, yes.
They're both done. That's what I think.
I hope so.
Yeah. What do you think about this as a loser? I'd say the progressive movement was a loser.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, Bernie Sanders made some comments. It's funny how he doesn't say this until the election's over. Maybe he was saying it behind the scenes and we don't know.
Right.
He talked about the Democrats turning their back on working class people.
Yeah.
I think he's right. I think his solutions to it are wrong. But I think he's right on that. But do the Democrats have to, how do I put this? Do they have to go from they went from the liberal Walter Mondale, Michael Dukakis candidates to the Clinton style. Do they have to Democrat leadership council this? Do they have to find a Joe Lieberman? Do they have to find, you know what I mean? Like, do they have to find, I think their bench is a big loser too.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think
it's so far left.
Yeah, they don't have a figure.
I mean, who's the AOC?
Right, but who's the JFK or Bill Clinton of this generation? I mean, who is it?
But they don't have that. They've shooed all those people out.
Well,
Their leaders are AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib.
Are they the leaders or are they just the loudest?
Well, I think it's one and the same.
Are they hog chained? Or are they the people who?
I mean, look at Hakeem Jeffries. You tell me there's any difference between the things that he supports and anything he said?
I don't know. Is Jeffries beholden to that faction, or is he one of them?
So.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Who's there? I think he's still kind of beholden to Nancy Pelosi.
Right. Pelosi had a huge hold over the House. I think Pelosi was the biggest one that got Biden out of there. Her and Obama.
Yeah.
I think Jeffries and Schumer were the two dragging their feet.
Yeah.
That's what I think. But yeah, I don't know. Who is their heir apparent? I mean, who's the person who can bring the progressive and the well, I don't know that they have a centrist wing of the party anymore.
I don't think they do.
You know, when you see Tulsi Gabbard and RFK and people like that leave, it's a real challenge. And I think the progressive movement is not dead by any means, but it's leaderless. What's Bernie Sanders, 85?
Yeah, he's got to
there's-
be.
But I mean,
he's gonna be
there's
91 when he's done with
he's in
his
his 80s. I mean, there's just no. It is, and I think that's part of why you see the finger pointing and you see all that stuff. Is I don't know that. I don't know who's the person who can bring who rises from them in 28. I mean, I have
the Democrats.
I have no idea.
Well, they may try to go with a Josh Shapiro or Andy Bashar type.
Boy, I don't know.
Do they have the national recognition? Maybe Josh Shapiro after this election cycle and the importance of Pennsylvania could.
I don't know, boy. John Fetterman, boy, he doesn't have very good things to say about Josh Shapiro.
Well,
I think there's some issues in Pennsylvania. Fetterman's a pretty straight shooter.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to say about him. But I don't know. I mean, what about the thing? I mean, you're telling me, Josh Shapiro, you're telling me they couldn't have a Jewish guy as vice president, but they'll take one as president?
Yeah.
Not buying it.
Right.
And I don't know. Andy Bashir got elected in Kentucky. I don't know what he's doing there, but
Right.
I mean, it's hard to see where they go. I don't know where they go who emerges, who from the House and the Senate do they have that's not in like a deep blue state. They're all just from California, New York, Illinois, the Northeast. I mean, they got nobody who breaks through.
Not really. Not at this time. They don't.
So,
which makes me think of maybe one of the ultimate losers in this whole thing, Tim Walz.
oh yeah, he kind of goes without saying.
Yeah, but I mean, think about this. I mean, the people are blaming his addition to the ticket for a
which
loss.
is totally not fair. Vice presidents don't win states.
He didn't help.
He didn't help, but I think the campaign should be blamed for that because they brought Walz out there who was totally unknown nationally. He brought nothing, no money, nothing. And number two, they hid him for 2 months.
Yes.
He had questions about him, and instead of answering them, he ran away. He didn't. Then when he had to, when they started losing, just like Kamala, it came across as disingenuous. Who financed you going to China 30 times? How do you not know you weren't there at Tiananmen Square? It's not believable.
Right.
I mean,
Trump won his home district.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Not surprised he won.
Do you think he runs for governor in 2 years?
No, probably not.
Really?
I don't think so.
You don't think he will?
No, I really don't. I don't know who does, but I get the feeling he's not going to. But I could be wrong. But I think the national spotlight might have. It's got to take a lot out of people, and he clearly wasn't ready for it.
Right.
And he runs again. All eyes will be on him. Now he's got a national profile, and I'm not. It might be time. I tried my hand at it. It didn't work.
Right.
And
although
probably
he doesn't seem to have a lot of self-awareness, though, and he thinks he can probably lie his way into.
Well, he knows the media here still doesn't put him under a microscope. I don't know.
So he might think that he can do it.
I think it'll be tough because I think the election will be all about him, and I think that's what he doesn't want. But maybe Republicans still don't have their act together. They don't have a leader here. They don't have an obvious candidate.
Yeah.
So I mean, he can probably win anyway. Peggy Flanagan isn't going to take the mantle. Cripe, I'd rather have Walz. So I mean, I don't know. But I think he's going to make a decision pretty quick. I mean, I bet he makes one by the end of the session. I bet by May or June, because elections are so. You're going to have a caucus in February of 26. He's going to have to bow out or be in by then.
Right.
But I think he's going to either bow out or be in the summer, because by the caucus
the
time,
party's going to want.
Yeah, everybody's got to know, okay, well, who's
candidate,
in? People got to raise money. They got to do all that.
Right.
So I think we're going to know by May or June whether he is or not. That's what Tim Pawlenty did.
Yeah.
So my guess is we'll know pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, you may have Melissa Hortman or somebody like that raise up and want to. There are people that want to run for the Democratic nomination
Sure.
for governor.
Sure, there are. But I don't know. I don't know what he does. So you got me, but he's definitely a loser.
Yes.
In this election. I do think, vice presidential candidates I don't think win. I think they surely can hurt. I do think he hurt, but I don't think a different candidate means Harris wins North Carolina or Georgia I just don't see it because it wouldn't have changed the issues. It wouldn't have changed the fundamentals of the race.
Wouldn't have changed her.
It would have changed her. And I'm one who believes Josh Shapiro may have turned her down. I'm not convinced that he's an animal. And I don't think he wanted to hitch his wagon to her.
Right.
So he may have turned. That's something that might come out in the future, whether he really was... the party might have wanted him, but I think he's like 48 years old. He's got 20 years to run for president. Right. And you don't want Kamala Harris's loss on your head.
To quote President Trump, maybe Chuck Schumer can be the first woman president of the United States.
I was going to mention another loser. And you got to say Chuck Schumer's a loser.
Yes.
And I think they've got to consider a different leader. I think his days in leadership are probably done too.
Yeah.
The Democrats did horribly. They've lost 4 Senate seats. It might be more.
Yeah.
I mean, and they could have lost more. I mean, they hung on to Wisconsin by a quarter of a point. I mean, I don't think Sam Brown will pull it off in Nevada. I think Carrie Lake has a good shot, though.
She might.
She was left for dead a couple months ago, but
you
look at the count right now. Trump's winning by like 6 or 7 points, and if that holds, I think he'll pull her over the top.
I don't see people voting for Gallego and Trump. I don't see a lot of crossover.
There's a little bit, but not a ton. I think Carrie Lake hurt herself with the aftermath of the governor election, but I think Trump's going to win that. I think he will win that by the biggest margin of any swing state. And I think, Dave McCormick, I think his win is a lot of it due to Trump, a lot of it due to Bob Casey flipping on some issues. But Bob Casey did everything he could to run away from Kamala Harris and put Trump in his ads. I mean, you put a guy in your ads you voted to impeach. Only a Democrat can get away with that.
Right.
But, and it still didn't work.
Yeah.
It's still, Trump deserves a lot of credit for that because I think without him, I think in an off year, Casey might win that race.
Yeah.
So, Chuck Schumer is a humongous loser in this. And this just goes to show the fact that Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and Chuck Schumer are still sort of the leaders in Washington right now for the Democratic Party. Doesn't that just show that they got no one else?
Yes.
Who takes it from Schumer? He's been there a long time as the top Senate Dem, but who's their rising star in the Senate? Name one.
Right. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
No idea.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Who's that 45-year-old that go-getting? I have no idea who that is.
Yeah.
So, I think it will be an uphill battle there. And you look at I hate bringing
maybe
up,
Amy Klobuchar can be the next Senate minority leader.
Can have her.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, too. You look at the map of 20. I hate to talk about 26 already.
Yeah.
I don't see how the Dems reclaim. There's going to be a Republican Senate for 4 years at least.
Yeah.
So, you're going to have, because I think the Georgia is going to flip back to Republican.
I do too.
Coming up there, I think there's a few other states where you're going to see some movement. So, I can't think of all the races off the top of my head, but I think you're going to see some movement back to I don't see how they can, because they're going to have to pick up 4 because Vance would break a tie.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go to pick up seats. Now, North Carolina is a seat that I think is going back Republican.
Yeah.
I think it was an aberration that Obama won that state once.
Yeah.
Trump's won it 3 straight times. Mitt Romney won it. Let's call it a red state.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, I don't know where they go. I don't know where they go to pick up Senate seats. No clue.
Yeah, it's not going to be any of the southern states like Alabama, Mississippi,
Louisiana, Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's where the Republicans, honestly, there's way more red states than blue states.
Yeah.
So it's just, they're at a disadvantage there, without a doubt. No question.
Yeah.
So I think you have a Republican Senate for 4 years now. Because remember, these are 6-year terms.
Yeah.
I mean, these,
And just with Trump's popularity, it's possible that
it's an
if there's
all-time
anything
high
like
right now.
in New Jersey or anything like that,
the Senate,
some of those states up there.
Everything comes down to how many seats you have to defend.
Yeah.
And I think that it did work against the Dems this time because they had so many seats that were in tough states. But again, they misallocated resources, and it was a long night. But man, Chuck Schumer, that's a loser and a half right there. I just go back to the Al Smith dinner when Trump goes, he's looking kind of glum. Maybe he's looking glum. There's a reason he's looking glum. Well, and I'll tell you another thing too. If the Dems are going to compete in these states, they have got to start governing the way they campaign. I mean, I think that really hurt Bob Casey. It really hurt John Tester.
Yeah.
It really hurt Sherrod Brown. They claimed they were moderates. They voted down the line with Biden. They voted down the line against Trump. They voted down the line with the judges. And it was a huge, huge mistake. So I think it'll be a big, big problem going forward. And maybe it's where Democrats just have to moderate.
Yeah.
To try to win something. But you can't go. But I'll tell you what. You look at the people who tried to do that. What happened to Kristen Sinema? And what happened to Joe Manchin?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they tried to govern as they campaigned, what happened to them? Yeah, Democrats came in and got rid of them.
Yeah.
So maybe they can't do that. I don't know. I'll tell you, that's a lot of winners and losers, isn't it?
Yes. I
think we could come up with more, but
probably we could probably sit here all night and volley back and forth.
I like our winners. I think we hit everything on my list. I mean, trying to find. I mean, you said some things I wrote down. So, Gene, let me just ask you one little question here. We talked about how well Trump did in a lot of the, states he didn't even campaign in, and he still did decently. I mean, especially when you compare it to the first 2 times he ran.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the reasons that he won the popular vote was we all knew he was going to gain votes in Florida. That was a given. I didn't think he'd win the state by 15, but I mean, you knew he wasn't going to win it by 3 or 4 or whatever. So, I mean, what do you think? Like the top, if you had to pick 3 or 4 states that you think Republicans really got a shot to really change things in, what do you think those would be? And not necessarily a presidential race, but just generally speaking, whether that's a governor, senator, House seat. Where do you have like a top 5? I mean, of course, everybody in the world would love to flip gears. But I mean, what's a legit 2026? What's a legit state looking at Trump's totals and saying, okay, whoa, you get 46% of the vote, and that's I never saw that coming. Whoa.
Yeah, well, I think New Hampshire is a prime candidate, right?
Sure.
Virginia is interesting. It's kind of in transition, but how far are they going to be able to take that? So that's a question that I have. You have that area just south of D.C. that is going to be forever blue.
Fairfax County.
Well, that's not necessarily true. If Trump fires enough people, they may move elsewhere, and so it's possible Virginia could go red if he fires enough people.
Well, Glenn Youngkin showed that it was in an off year, but I mean, it's possible to win there.
And another state, I think, and I probably sound foolish for saying it, is Minnesota. I mean, really, it was a lot closer than it ever should have been for as blue as they claim we are. You look at the electoral map, it's red outside of Duluth, the cities, and Moorhead.
Well, and I'll say this, he won 43% of the vote in St. Louis County.
Yeah.
And that is impressive.
Up in the Arrowhead, it's still blue for some reason.
Lake County, and a lot of government workers, a lot of DNR people who work for the county and all that. I don't think Minnesota's strange at all. I think
you have to target the areas where you're close. You have to find those Senate districts where they're flippable.
But I also think you're right. But I also think when you look at it statewide, look at how Trump moved the needle in Fulton County.
Yeah,
he won like 5 more percentage points in Philadelphia. Yeah. He won. I mean, he did move the needle, even though he lost it.
Right,
he did move the needle.
And I think you can connect with people in Minneapolis, in St. Paul. You have people that have been struggling for years. Ever since this George Floyd thing, people have not gained their businesses back. Since COVID, they haven't gained their businesses back. You have people living in increased crime. There are nonpartisan issues where you can meet them on their level, and they just might take a look at you.
It's possible. Yeah, definitely New Hampshire. I think the smaller states have got to be a place where they go.
Some of them, yes.
When I see them get 45% of the vote in Rhode Island.
Yes.
How many voters is that? You know what I mean? It's like 45% of the vote in Illinois. Okay, that's still like hundreds of thousands of votes.
Right.
You know what I mean? And Chicago's still a problem.
Yeah.
But a state like that, where you think, okay, I can't believe I got 45% of the vote and I didn't do anything.
Right.
I mean, nothing whatsoever.
To get another 6 percentage points, what does that take?
I don't know. Maine, I think, is definitely a state that needs to be targeted. That's a state waiting to flip.
Right.
That's a state with the lawfare against Trump, trying to take him off the ballot, so on and so forth. I think that's a state right next to New Hampshire that can also go. And I'm going to say a state that I think Trump would have won. Why? But New Mexico, with their Hispanic vote, is Gary Johnson vote is still there. There is a libertarian. It's a border state. I think if Trump, look, I don't blame him for it because you can't spend all of your resources in 29
but
states.
All of their House seats went blue too.
Yeah, but I still feel that again. You're talking about not a very big state, not a very populous state.
True.
So you'd think it would maybe be more right.
Yeah.
Like look at Greater Minnesota. So I think that's a state with potential. I think that's a state where, again, you want to dive into that Hispanic vote, which.
Right.
But he got a good chunk of the vote there. He went there one time. And like I said, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
But that's a state to work on, I think. The Republicans got a solid 45, 46% of the vote there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a state that is should be on a target as well. And God, I love the state of Colorado, and I wish they would flip back.
It's not going to soon. It may eventually.
Where Trump went, though?
Yeah.
They got that seat. Laura Bobart won. He went there for a reason, and it was to hold those two seats.
Right.
So mission accomplished going to Colorado. All right, Jay.
Yeah.
We've talked enough. Good show.
Yes.
Happy show.
Yeah.
All the losers that we talked about, I don't like any of them. It was really satisfying.
It was.
To I know that's terrible, but it's just what we have to do sometimes, folks. Sorry for all you. Sorry, Liz Cheney, but I'm sure you're being talked about. All right. Styling, profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, indeed. We, I think we kind of expected what we were going to get. You know, I think all signs were kind of pointing that way. The momentum. Our work is just beginning. It is not over by any stretch of the imagination. We got the presidency. We got the U.S. Senate and probably the U.S. House. But what about your house? What about where you live? What about your governorships? Your state house, your state senate? What about city councils and county boards? What about soil and water conservation? What about sheriffs and county attorneys? What about school boards? These are also things that need attention. And if we're going to move the ball forward, we have to come together. We've got to realize as Americans that starting today is the day that we take our country back. Now, the best way to do that is to go out there and be a part of your communities. Volunteer to be on an advisory commission at the city, county, or school level. And sit in there and give your ideas and help guide those governing bodies into a decision that is more conservative than it is liberal. Go out there and think about running for these offices. Well, I've said it before. In Minnesota, we need about 20,000 people elected and appointed to sit in those seats. That seems like a big number, but guess what? That is less or approximately 2% of conservative voters. It does not take a lot, but it does take us saying we will do whatever it takes to win. Except cheat. Not going to do that. But within ourselves, to bolster ourselves, pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and to take this as a real opportunity that America has a chance to be reborn. We have a chance for a renaissance, a reformation, to bring American values back, to embrace the American spirit again, where all men and women, no matter who they are, what their background is, where they come from, they can be successful. They have an opportunity in the United States of America. That's what our forefathers saw, and that's what is still possible. We're at a tipping point, but it just tipped in a big way to restoring America rather than replacing America. But where do we go from here? It's up to you. We can't have these federal elections go our way and have a vacuum locally. It will not work. The federal government is not equipped, is not supposed to be equipped to handle things here at home. That's what we do. So now's the time. I challenge you to do a little soul searching, and this year, make a decision that you will do whatever is in your power to make this country, this state, your city, or township, or school district great again. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work.